Oh, what a year it was for running backs in 2024. Can we repeat that success? I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably not, especially running backs 13 through 24 in average draft position. Usually kind of a wasteland or at least a disappointing range in terms of production. Last year was absolutely sensational, but everybody's a year older now, and that's one of the themes as we look at the running back position this year. Welcome, everybody. This is RB Preview Part 1 on Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. We've got a great rookie class combined with James Conner, who's 30, Derrick Henry, who's 31, Aaron Jones, who's 30, Joe Mixon's 29, Alvin Kamara's 30, Christian McCaffrey's 29. We'll see how much it matters. Good morning, guys. How you feeling about running back this year, Heath?
Fantastic.
Good. Very to the point. Jamie, how about you?
Doubly fantastic.
Okay, I hope it's
you've got like 17 pre-scripted questions that I'm trying to answer with different names and different ideas. So I don't have any other words. I've already got my words ready.
Good. Well, I know you're feeling fantastic about Draftathon as we are over 120,000 on Draftathon, and I'll tell you about some of the items that you can bid on a little bit later in the show. But let's get into the running backs preview here. So part 1 is going to be more of an overall strategy sesh. And then part 2 will really break down the players and the ADPs. So, Jamie, what's your overall running back strategy?
Same that's been for the last several years. Really, find that the best approach for me, and, I tell anybody who asks, is hero RB. I think just taking one in the first 2 or 3 rounds is the best approach. And then you get such great value, especially this year. On, as you said, the running back class the rookie running back class has sort of reshuffled a lot of things, where you're either going to get, potentially a high-end rookie, at a good price, RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, maybe Travion Henderson, some other guys, which I really like, but that's a little bit later. But also it's pushed around some players that I think can also give you an opportunity to take some shots on an RB2, 3 or 4 of those guys. So if you like the receivers, and I think the high-end receiver talent dries up a little bit quicker than the running back talent. So I like to get my receivers early and then, with one running back and then sort of stock up on those other guys.
And Heath, how about you? What's your running back strategy?
I like the hero RB approach. The problem for me has been that I also like the running backs in round 3 more than I do the wide receivers. And so if I take a running back in round 1, and that's for me more determined by how the draft goes and not like forcing guys. I've moved Chase and Lamb up to basically 101 and 103. So I'd like to take one of those 2 guys early on, but I don't feel good about necessarily putting Nico or Puka or Jefferson with the hamstring right now ahead of all of the running backs in round 1. So if I take one in round 1, then I sometimes end up with 2 in the first 3 rounds, and I'm okay with that.
You say all of the running backs in round 1. Who are you exactly referring to?
So for me, it's Bijan, Achane, Barkley, Genty, Gibbs.
And Achane is someone that on Fantasy Pros, his ADP is 12th.
Yep.
And on Football Guys, let's see, Achane's ADP, I think might be a little bit lower than that. Yeah, it's 14th. So that's a fun one because you might be able to get Achane in the second round. In every single one of our drafts that we've done, our mock drafts, he's a first-round pick, sometimes the top 5 pick. So we really like Devon Achane. He averaged almost 23 fantasy points per game in full PPR when Tua was healthy. A lot of catches. But, he's a second-round pick.
That wasn't completely out of nowhere. He averaged over 20 fantasy points per game in his 9 healthy games as a rookie.
Yeah, he's just been so good. The whole offense was dragged down when Tua was out. We're hoping they'll be a little bit more competent this year if Tua misses time. But we like Achane in the first round. ADP has him in the early second round. So if he's there, if he and Derrick Henry are there and you're picking late and you really like one of those guys, maybe you go wide receiver with your first pick and just hope that Henry and Achane, one of them is available to you in the second round. So you have no problem taking 2 running backs with your first 3 picks. Jamie, what's your take on when to get that second running back?
I will say format matters, because if it is a 2 running back, 2 receiver league, I think hero RB does not make as much sense in a 3-receiver league. I shouldn't say it doesn't make as much sense, but it's easier to get away with going running back in a 2-receiver league than it is to do it in a 3-receiver league, because just again, the receiver talent, I think, thins out a little bit, when you're trying to fill that spot. So I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, when do you want to take your second running back? Are you okay doing it with your first 2 picks, for 2 of your first 3? What do you think?
So yeah, I think you never want to pigeonhole yourself, so I'll sort of maybe sound a little hypocritical here. Like, I don't always want to just go in, I'm only doing hero RB, and I'm stuck doing it, because to Heath's point, I don't really like the running back value in round 3 the way that I have it ranked. The way that we see it fall sometimes, especially early round 3. And I think that might have been what you're alluding to, Heath, by pushing the receivers up in the early part of your rankings. Because when you get to that 2-3 turn, you'll still see potentially Bucky Irving, Kyron Williams, maybe Jonathan Taylor, maybe Josh, somebody that Chase Brown, fall into the 25 through 28 range. So, I think that's just, pretty good value to find one of those type of running backs, depending how you feel about Williams. The other 2 guys, I think, still seem to go. But now we're seeing an injured Ken Walker in round 3, James Cook in his contract situation in round 3. I have Omarion Hampton sort of at the 3-4 turn, but that's at the back end. Breece Hall is going to be in that range for some people. He's a round 4 pick for me. So I don't really love those caliber of running backs that early in some cases. So I think if you find yourself taking Robinson or Barkley or Gibbs or any of those guys in round 1, and you don't love really the receivers, I think, after Drake London, so Higgins, McConkey, Tyreek, the tight ends, depending on how it falls, like, why not just take running back, and then just sort of hope your receiving core isn't, somewhat so decimated that you're not having potentially a top 12 guy, depending on how it falls for you. So again, don't pigeonhole yourself. But for me, ideally, it would be starting in that round 5-6 range, so go running back, because I'm not usually a quarterback or tight end early guy unless it just falls the right way. But it would be most likely taking a running back in the first 2 or 3 rounds, and then looking at it again in round 5 or round 6, depending on who's on the board. So Harvey, Swift, Henderson, those type of guys is a lot of where I look in that range of number 2 running backs.
Okay. And there's a range of players. I'm just going to read 20, or I guess, 20 to 30 in ADP on Fantasy Pros, PPR ADP. Starts with Jonathan Taylor, Drake, and I won't even include the quarterbacks, as we do have Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels in there.
I mean, you should. They're going to factor in.
Yeah, but okay, I'll read them all. It's like, I'm not even going to read the quarterbacks, but here are the quarterbacks: Jonathan Taylor, Drake London, Bucky Irving, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Kyron Williams, Ladd McConkey, Trey McBride, Chase Brown, Tyreek Hill, Jaden Daniels, T. Higgins. I think for a lot of us, if we come away with 2 of those 3 players, not including the quarterback, we're probably not taking the quarterbacks there. We're going to feel pretty happy, whether it's Bucky Irving and T. Higgins, or it's Drake London and Chase Brown, or it's Kyron Williams and Tyreek Hill, or something like that. Kind of feel me, guys? If we agree there, like, those are good options if you're drafting. If you have an early pick in the first round, first half of it, you're probably going to feel pretty good about your second and third round picks based on those names.
Yeah, I mean, I always just take Kyron Williams there,
and I always take Chase Brown. If I took a running back in the first round or in the second round and Chase Brown is there in the third round, it's almost automatic to me. I'm just clicking it. And that's where he's going. He's going 27th. And on Football Guys, Chase Brown's going 26th. So you do have to wonder, you do have to ask yourself, am I going to take Jamar Chase and Chase Brown? If you like him. Jamie, is there a guy for you that's just an automatic select at around the 2-3 turn at running back?
At running back, I mean, Chase Brown for sure. It's hard to pass on that. And even if you take Jamar Chase, like, I don't think that's an issue. I think taking Jamar Chase and T. Higgins might not be the best strategy, but taking the receiver and the running back for Cincinnati is not bad at all. Tyreek Hill is another one. I know, not running back, but not really anybody. I mean, Bucky Irving is the same to me as Chase Brown. He just doesn't fall as far. I don't know why people are valuing Chase Brown differently than Bucky Irving so much. I think they're, again, different players, clearly, how they get their job done. But like day 2, day 3 running backs, guys that have some, questions about will they hold up and keep the job for as long as they potentially will, and competition for target for touches, etc. To me, it's just they're very similar in terms of how they're going to get there.
Yeah. And we have a question in the chat from Sean. Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs, or Jonathan Taylor. I didn't mean to imply that I'm taking Chase Brown over those guys, but Jacobs and Taylor are probably not going to make it to the third round, whereas Chase Brown, his ADP is currently in the third round. I might want to take him over Jonathan Taylor at BPR. I'd definitely go in Jacobs 1. How do you guys rank those three? Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor.
Jacobs, Brown, Taylor, but they're all back-to-back-to-back.
Jacobs, Taylor, Brown, they're almost back-to-back.
Okay. So a fun range of running backs in round 2 and hopefully leaking into round 3. So that's kind of how you look at it if you have an early first-round pick and you're structuring your team at running back. Heath, if you have a late first-round pick, we alluded to it a little bit, but you have to think about what's coming around in the second round, right? So picks 13 through 16 or 17, and when we've got Achane, Nico, Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Jacobs, AJ Brown, Brock Bowers in this mix. So if you're picking 10th-ish, do you have a preference? If you want to walk out of there with a running back and a wide receiver with your first 2 picks, is there a way to go in the first round?
I'm taking Achane and one of the pass catchers.
Okay, if Achane's off the board. I guess my question is, do you think you're going to have a better wide receiver available to you in round 2 or a better running back available in round 2? Or it just
really depends on who the first 10 guys that we're taking. Like, I think there's a pretty good chance when you're talking about pick 14 or 15. It also depends on how you feel about AJ Brown, another wide receiver who currently has a hamstring injury. I'm a little higher on him than consensus, and he's often the last of those wide receivers there at pick 14 or 15. But I think if you're picking in the last 3 picks, and you're thinking Achane might fall to my next pick, well, do you have a tier break between Brian Thomas, Nico Collins, Puka Nacua, AJ Brown, whichever of those 4 guys are left? Because generally one of those 4 guys is left at 15. If you don't really have a preference, or if the guy you like best usually goes last, like AJ Brown, then I think you definitely take Achane.
It's so easy to see how the draft board is falling at that point, because to Heath's point, like if I know, like I think for me, I have Nico and Brian Thomas ranked a little bit ahead of where consensus is, for example. I think we're all, whether it's Heath at 2 or me at 5, Achane's ahead of consensus for us too. So those are 2, and we're probably ahead on McCaffrey as well at this point. So you can sort of see, I haven't seen a draft yet, and I've probably done 25 already, best ball and redraft. I haven't seen a draft yet where one of McCaffrey, Achane, Genty have not been there. And I'll throw Henry in there too. 10 through 15 in some capacity.
And just looking at CBS ADP, like Brian Thomas is 15th right now, AJ Brown 17th.
Right. And so then it's the receivers, so if you want to go receiver running back, like I haven't seen anywhere without question. And again, depends how you feel on these guys. Like Nico, Brian Thomas, in some cases, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, and Drake London not being available, and that's assuming Puka's gone, so you can easily go like again, best ball draft. If you want to throw it out, fine. But the first rounds are eerily similar, you would expect. So I did a draft last night where I had the 12th pick and I took Brian Thomas and Genty.
Brian Thomas and Genty.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And that's great. And it seems like Brian Thomas Jr. and Nico Collins, based on multiple websites, average draft position, are wide receivers that are more likely to be available to you, kind of in the 15-ish range. So if you're worried about not getting one of those elite running backs, maybe take one in round 1 at 10th-ish overall, and then maybe you like the wide receivers better. But I think what you need to do at home is figure out, all right, here are the wide receiver rankings, here are the running back rankings, and then also figure out how does Brock Bowers factor into this for you. But I want to come away with my first 2 picks. This is if you have kind of a later pick with one of my top, could be 7 running backs. That would be Robinson, Gibbs, McCaffrey, Barkley, Achane, Genty, Derrick Henry.
I have Kyler in 7th, but yeah.
I know. Yeah, I was just looking at consensus, and I didn't even go in order because it's consensus. We have Achane 2 in consensus because everybody loves him. Everybody's got him in the top 4. but you have him second. And then maybe you want to get one of the top 7 or 8 wide receivers: Chase, Lamb, Jefferson, Neighbors, Puka, Collins, Thomas, A.J. Brown. That's 14 or 15 picks if you include A.J. Brown. That's without any quarterbacks. That's without Brock Bowers. So figure out at what, I want to get one of the top blank running backs and one of the top blank wide receivers, or obviously you could always go receiver. You could always go running back. Do what makes you feel comfortable. There's no set in stone winning strategy.
I think I know you want to take a break, but I think the one thing when you're picking at the end of round 1, you really have to think, and you go receiver, you really have to think, how comfortable am I with the 2 running backs if you're going to go running backs on your next turn, or, again, how you build out your strategy. Like, do you really like, to whatever degree they may fall? Kyron could be there, but I doubt it. But let's just say Kyron is there. James Cook is there. Ken Walker's there.
James Cook's ADP has risen enough where I don't feel comfortable putting him. It's around 30.
I think it's about to plummet.
Okay, that is true. But as we do this right now, he is holding in. As we do this right now, it's about 30-31. So that was always kind of a fallback for me, Jamie. I completely agree with you. If I went wide receiver, man, I love taking James Cook late round 3. As of right now, he's not getting there, but you are correct. If he continues to hold in, the ADP will fall. But give me some of the more names. So you got Hampton there. You got Brees Hall.
Yeah, I was going to say it's from the top to the bottom, I think, of the group. Kyron, James Cook, Ken Walker, Amari Hampton, Brees Hall, Alvin Kamara. I think that's probably where it ends. Maybe Chuba.
Chuba's the other one who could be included.
Yeah, but it's also, forget about included. You may have to reach. So again, you're not getting those guys back to you at the 5-6 turn. So it's how comfortable are you with that group of guys? Now, again, we've talked about this in some cases with the pick by pick and some other various examples. Like, you don't have to take a running back, or you can go with more of a 0 RB approach, or just take one of those guys and take Kittle or take a quarterback or another receiver, and you're on your way and still have an ability to throw a lot of capital at the running back position. I think, again, it's just a matter of, if I need to get my running backs a little bit more secure, then make sure you understand what you're doing if you go receiver at the back end of the first round.
Well, I think one of the conundrums here is, do we base our expectations off of last year or the 3 years before that? Because I looked at running backs drafted in running backs ADP 13-24, and how did they do? And I'm going to tell you how they did in just a second. Now, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FANTASY, and you're going to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. And here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, and you sign up, and you use the bonus code FANTASY. Deposit at least $10. Place your first wager on any game, and you're going to receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. So just make sure that you use the bonus code FANTASY when you sign up on BetMGM. Quick break here, and we'll be right back to talk about running backs 13-24 and what history tells us after this.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Okay, so I've been trying to compare running backs versus wide receivers basically throughout drafts, but specifically in the early rounds, the top 24 drafted at each position in PPR leagues, and who's safer, which position is safer. I would say that the data shows that running backs are a little bit safer, but if you look at PPR scoring, there's usually about the same amount of running backs that score 14 PPR points per game as there are wide receivers who score 15 PPR points per game. It's every year, it's pretty close in terms of 15 points per game for a wide receiver, 14 points per game for a running back. So running backs drafted as top 24 guys have hit the 14 point per game mark about 75% of the time, whereas it's 65% for wide receivers. So we're having more success drafting running backs in terms of top 24 guys than we are wide receivers. This is over the last 4 or 5 years. So that's one thing to consider. Here's another thing, though, Heath, and I think it really relates to today's show topic, right, is the running backs, and specifically if you're taking 2 wide receivers or something with your first 2 picks. Running backs 13 through 24, that 14-point per game mark, they had hit that 4 times, right? So in 2020, 1, 2, and 3, 4 running backs in that range of 12 averaged 14 or more PPR fantasy points per game. Last year, I think it was 9. It's such a good year for RBs 13 through 24. And honestly, it was such a logic-defying year for running backs because we're so worried about all these old guys, and pretty much all of them were good. Right? Derrick Henry, James Conner, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, they were all old for the position, and they were all really good. And now we have to worry about them again being old. So you know what I'm trying to get at here? It was such a good year for running backs. Should we dial our expectations down a bit? And, what do you think in general about RBs 13 through 24? Because they look pretty damn good on paper, but history tells us it's not a great range, except last year it was.
You shouldn't ever let one year change all of your priors. You also shouldn't completely ignore it. And one thing we saw was a little more running in the NFL last year. Like we had to figure out how do we beat all this too high stuff the defense is doing. And a lot of teams decided the way we're going to do that is just run it down their throat and let them stay in that defense. And so I am more optimistic about the running backs in the RB 13 to 24 range probably than I was going into last year, but not expecting a repeat of what we saw last year. It's somewhere in the middle. And looking at that group now, I've got a little gap in my rankings kind of from, it's more like RB 16 through 24 that I'm looking at in kind of the same range. And it's RB 15 where the cutoff is that I feel like guys could be RB 1s this year. The other thing that really changes it, and I think you have a question coming up about this, so I'm going to go ahead and run it, but it's maybe the best running back class we've had in 6 or 7 years. And a lot of the guys at the tail end of that RB 13 through 24 range are rookie running backs. And even when people were talking about the dead zone and avoiding that range of running backs, the guys who were generally the exception were the rookies or the young, exciting running backs. So I think you should feel more optimistic about it than you did last year.
I think part of it also is, you could start to see, unfortunately, some of the pitfalls for a couple of the guys that may go at the top of this group.
Right.
James Cook with the hold in, Walker now with a foot injury, Hampton. I think the hype may get out of control if Najee's back at some point soon and sort of ruins that. Breece Hall in the potential competition. You can see the flaws for that. But I think part of this, which I think helped last year, based on the previous years, they got pushed down a lot in drafts.
A little bit, yep. Mm-hmm.
And so we'll see how that changes this year, right? Because
as of now, it's about the same.
Right. I don't think we've seen it yet. But again, where does the true ADP sort of come in when all the drafts are happening, when the quarterbacks are being selected a little bit higher than we expect, and maybe the second to third tier of tight ends start to push up a little bit as well. Laporta and Kelsey and those guys maybe come into this range a little bit more so than we've seen in our drafts. But I do think that when you start to look at the value for these guys, and so where does James Conner's value settle? Where does Henderson and Harvey and Caleb Johnson's value settle? It's still an uncertain market, and I think that's where, to what you said yesterday, and it goes both ways, drafting early versus drafting late. You may be getting some incredible values on some of these players, or it may go the other way. It may be awful at later points in the draft process. So it's just a strange group of players. I don't say strange, an interesting group, intriguing group of players of how this is all going to work out, because you may get, you may be buying too soon on Charbonnet at this point because of Walker's injury, and Walker may fall to a spot now where it's how can I not draft him because of what he can be if this foot injury is not bad. Same with Joe Mixon, right? Same situation.
Right. And Mixon, they're not sure if he's going to be ready for week 1, but there's a chance, certainly. And Walker, look, it's August 5th. He's missed 3 days with a foot injury. Doesn't mean he won't be back out there on August 8th. And then all of our fears will be put to rest. But he does have an injury history, especially, I think, ankle injuries he's had in the past.
I think the Walker win brings up something I was struggling with yesterday, because there was all kinds of positive stuff coming out about Caleb Johnson the last couple of days and how good he's looked running. And it was like 3 days before that all the coverage was what a disaster Caleb Johnson was in pass protection. How he was just getting trucked over and over and couldn't block anybody. And that's why, and sometimes we have guys that are hurt for 3 days and we start to adjust them. And then a week later, they've got training camp highlights and they're perfectly fine. So we want to react to news, but we probably need to react slowly and do it when the news is more consistent over a week at least.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. Don't draft yet. Just a little bit. All right, let me go through some news and notes. Breece Hall returned to drills. Isaac Guerendo, this is a big one here because he's a guy we keep saying, you draft Christian McCaffrey, you better draft Isaac Guerendo. He's going to miss a few weeks with a shoulder injury. So how does that change things for fantasy, Jamie, specifically the McCaffrey manager?
Well, one, I think if you're drafting Guerendo, you're drafting him for the potential what if, which hopefully will not come early in the season, so he can still not have to be used a lot and get right. But it also should suggest at this point that Jordan James should be on your radar as somebody to take with a late round flyer if this injury continues, or who might be our new cockroach, Amir Abdullah, who's now on the roster and had some very good moments last year, can do well in this pass catching role, I'm sure. I hope he doesn't matter, but never know. In any event, I keep moving Guerendo down, not because of this, because there are other players in that range that I like more, but also because McCaffrey seems to be healthy at this point. So I was probably a little too aggressive in some of my early drafts with Guerendo because we didn't know what was going to happen with McCaffrey once the training camp process started. So I think if you're still drafting Guerendo, you're drafting him with the what if down the road.
Oh my gosh. Amir Abdullah. Are you kidding me? Let's see. Week 15, he was RB7. Week 16, he was RB15, and he scored 19.5 points in week 15, and he was, or week, what week am I on here? Week 16, sorry, and he was only RB15. And then week 17, your fantasy championship, Amir Abdullah was RB7.
I started him in several playoffs last year.
He scored 19.6, 19.5, and 17.7 PPR fantasy points.
He was good.
And he had 3 carries, 7 carries, and then 20 carries. Wow. I remember that. That was a lot of fun, actually. Ken Walker's missed 3 days.
With one of his, I don't think you've done it in a while. Your Twitter names, Amir Abdullah, Alvin Kamara, same thing.
Yeah. Ken Walker, 3 days he's missed with a foot injury. Dameon Pierce is off the PUP list for the Texans. Benjamin Albright of KOA Colorado says that both running backs and Denver running backs look good, but he suggests that J.K. Dobbins is RB1, and he will be until R.J. Harvey gets better at pass protection. You hear that a lot about rookies. The Giants signed Jonathan Ward because Cam Scatteraboo is banged up right now. And I don't know the severity of the injury, but obviously it would matter for Tyrone Tracy's
hamstring injury, by the way.
Cleveland signed Tyler Huntley at quarterback. Shedeur Sanders back at practice, but it looks like Joe Flacco, as Jamie and Heath mentioned yesterday, appears to be the favorite, Joe Flacco, to become the starting quarterback.
Can you imagine how high I'm going to have Joe Flacco ranked week 1 against the Bengals defense?
Oh,
chasing the score against that offense. He might throw 50 passes.
Nice.
Maybe the start of the week.
Green Bay cornerback Nate Hobbs had knee surgery, but he could be ready for week 1. Other quarterback news, Spencer Rattler is clearly outplaying Tyler Shuck, according to New Orleans.Football's Nick Underhill. Tampa Bay signed quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. The Chargers met with Keenan Allen. They might sign him. We'll see. And Travis Hunter, he was listed as a starting wide receiver and a second-string cornerback on the first depth chart. And Heath, you were saying that they want him to play 80% of the offensive snaps?
I think Liam Cohen was very hesitant to answer the question. I think Jamie said it was Rich Eisen, right?
Yep.
Was trying to pin him down. Like, how many snaps is this guy playing on offense and defense? And he started on offense and said, like it if you could play around 80% of the snaps.
Wow.
And then we'll try to match what he does on defense to that. But it sure seems like offense is the focus and defense is the secondary thing, hopefully.
He said, as part of the answer, and you could check it out on Coach Peak Index, he said that he can walk on the field and play corner now, essentially. Yep. And offense is what he has to learn the most, the nuances of playing the position. He said there's not a time that he is not in a meeting with someone. It's very similar to, if you want to just see what his Travis Hunter's interview with Pete Prisco, which you can find on our site, saying the exact same thing. He's basically going to do as much as he can to play every snap on both sides of the ball. But if he's playing 80% on offense, it's going to be very good for his fantasy value as long as he holds up. That's the biggest thing.
I had him projected right around 70%, and which put him at wide receiver 30. If I put him at 80%, he's going to be like wide receiver 18. But I just hope some documentary crew is following him around. And at the end of the year, we get the video of how Travis Hunter became the first guy to be a full-time offensive and defensive player.
That'd be pretty cool. Okay, Travis Hunter is currently a 6th-round pick and someone we will talk about in a couple of days. But right now, let's get back to some running back questions. So, Jamie, how does this strong rookie class factor in after Ashton Genty, who's likely going to be a 1st-round pick? How does the rookie class change your draft strategy, if at all?
Well, I think first off, Hampton is getting closer to Genty than he is to, how did you have it? Triple H and Double J?
Triple H, Double J.
Yeah. So
just single J right now because Judkins.
Right. Yeah. He's closer to Genty than he's ever been, and we'll see how long that stays because of Najee's eye injury, which, by the way, I think it was yesterday or maybe Sunday. There was the video of him walking around practice, not running. He was just walking around the practice field. Like, this is so weird. What's going on with Najee Harris right now? I don't know what to make of it. Hopefully he's okay. Right. In every facet, not just his eye, whatever's going on. But this is just weird that he had an eye injury and is not running at all. In any event, I think there is going to be stretches of the season where this class is dominant. You just mentioned the Broncos report where J.K. Dobbins is running ahead of Harvey until he gets better in pass protection. Heath brought up the Steelers situation, which we heard Jalen Warren, we know is great in pass protection based on how he grades out in previous years, and Caleb Johnson may or may not be struggling with it. There was several reports the last couple of days because of training camp stops from various networks about how great Trevion Henderson looks, and still Ramondre Stevenson is going to be in the mix. So almost all of these guys, aside from Genty, are in situations, and Judkins could be maybe a little bit different if he ever can get on the field, but all of these guys are in tandems or committees. And so at what point, including Scatterboo, including Jadon Blue, who's getting rave reviews in Dallas, maybe Bashal Tutin with the Jaguars, and maybe Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt with the Commanders. Like, at some point, we may see these guys all be the starters and all have fantastic stretches of production. But you may have to be patient with it. And so when you're drafting these guys, it's hard to say, I'm comfortable unless, you really like the rest of your roster and are just going to take some shots at the position. But I'm comfortable with Trevion Henderson week 1 as my second running back. I'm comfortable with Caleb Johnson week 1 as my second running back. I'm comfortable with even Amari Hampton week 1 as my first running back. And so it may just have to preach patience and believe in what these guys can become when you start the season.
On the other hand, if you want to take Henderson or Harvey in round 5 and say it's a pick not necessarily for week 1, you can come back and you can take Aaron Jones, or I would take Isaiah Pacheco in round 6 and have a guy that you could feel maybe more comfortable in week 1.
Or you can just take that backfield and take Ramondre Stevenson and Johnson and Warren, or see how that plays out. I'm just saying based on cost. Like, if you don't want to double dip on the running back position right away, like, you can wait a little bit and still get the second guy, quote unquote, who may be the starter week 1, and just sort of see how that plays out. So, like, in the case of what Heath is talking about, for example, like, Jerome Ford's an easy target for the start of the season at this point, because no matter when Judkins signs, he's most likely going to be so far behind in terms of prep and being NFL ready. Jerome Ford's probably the starter week 1 against a very good matchup against the Bengals.
Here's one way that you could structure a team that had the 9th or 10th pick, let's say. You could take Ashton Genty in round 1, or you could take, that could be Derrick Henry or Devon Achane. Yeah, we'd take Achane, right? You could take Achane.
Yeah, however you view it.
Yeah, all right. So you take a hero RB, Brian Thomas Jr. in round 2, or Nico Collins, or maybe Puka Nacua in round 2. Round 3, come back. Jackson Smith and Jigba could be there. You might like him. Or maybe Jaden Daniels is there. You might want to take a quarterback. Round 4, we like George Kittle there. Or maybe there's a wide receiver you like. Round 5, RJ Harvey or Trevion Henderson. Round 6, Isaiah Pacheco or Aaron Jones. I don't think that's so bad. I could live with that. I'd be pretty pumped about that. want me to say it again?
I don't disagree. I mean, the strategy, at least, players might disagree on, but
Yeah.
I think in terms of going that route, sure. Especially knowing that Jones or Pacheco or whoever else may be in that spot there could also be your flex
Just
at some point during the season.
Go ahead, Heath.
And I know, like, it's good that you emphasize that we try to find some of these strategies that people can think about. I just stay open because our drafts are so different across a variety of different spectrums that there's a lot of different paths that might work out there. I don't have any problem with that one if it happens to work out that way.
All right. So that would give you a lineup of, let's say, Jaden Daniels, Devon Achane, Isaiah Pacheco, Brian Thomas Jr., George Kittle. No, we only have one wide receiver on this team. Okay, so you're not going to take Daniels and Kittle. That would be, you'd have to take.
Just ask your next question.
Which is
it does the
okay
the round
break. But let me we'll take a break, and then we're going to talk about what is it the formats. 3 receiver. That's your question. Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Can I just finish up the rookie discussion with this? Do you agree or disagree? If you walk out of your draft without any rookie running backs, you've made a mistake.
No, you haven't made a mistake. I mean, it's probably not the best way to go, given how good these guys can be. But to Heath's point, like, I don't want to walk into my draft saying I have to draft a rookie. Like,
but it's easy to do.
Well, it depends on what you're talking about here, because yes, you can draft Blue or Tootin or DJ Giddens or Krosky Merritt, like any of these guys you could draft at some point, Samson. But like, I'm not going to walk in saying, okay, I like Achane better than Genty. I'm not taking Genty over Achane because I need to get a rookie.
No, but you don't have to. I'm not saying you throw out the rankings and just say, oh, I can take rookies. But I'm not leaving any drafts without at least one rookie running back. This is good.
But again, like what level of rookie running back are we talking about?
Doesn't matter. I mean, the later we go, the more I'd want. If I didn't get any in the first 8 rounds, I'm probably going to take a couple of shots. But we have old running backs. We have old veteran running backs. That is a bad recipe. I know it wasn't bad last year, but those guys could falter. Get some youth at running back. Heath, you should have at least 2 rookie running backs on most of your teams.
Do not make an intentional choice to make sure you draft a rookie running back and throw away a pick because you're doing that. And the other problem is, like, a lot of the old backs that we're worried about don't have rookies waiting behind them.
I know. In the middle of that rant, I was like, well, I'm not sure this is actually helping the argument.
You got two that come to mind. You have Woody Marks, behind 2 old running backs. One's hurt right now in Houston. And Devin Neal behind an old running back in New Orleans. So they're free.
And you said round 8. I know you want to take a break, but you were going to skip the question that I wanted you to ask. So you were going to ask if we like running backs or wide receivers better in round like 8, 9, 10, the later rounds.
Oh yeah.
And
let's just skip that.
The reason that I don't want to force a rookie running back in round 9 is because a strange thing this year, and you've talked about it, we usually get 1 or 2 good wide receivers from this round. As of ADP right now, I love the wide receivers available at round 8, 9, 10. Now, you get to the later rounds, you probably should just take backup running backs and hope they become starters. But looking at CBS ADP, and I know it'll be different than best ball ADP, but Rome Odunze, Cooper Kupp, Ricky Pearsall, Emeka Ibuka, Matthew Golden, like that's the round 8 through 10 sauce right there.
I feel comfortable saying this. I could give you some numbers, but I feel comfortable saying that once we get to round 7 or later, you will see more success stories. Not necessarily this year, but in the last 7 or 8 years, more big successes at wide receiver than running back. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, this year, weak wide receiver rookie class, great running back rookie class, so that could change. But you definitely want to spend some late picks on wide receivers because Ladd McConkey and Jackson Smith-Njigba and Brian Thomas Jr. and all that from last year, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of success stories. All right, now we're going to take a break. We're going to talk about running back strategies in different formats. We're going to talk about how much you care about age, sleepers, breakouts, busts, auction advice, all after this on FFT.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Okay, how does your strategy change in different formats? Jamie, I guess let's start with scoring. Let's start with non-PPR versus half PPR versus full.
In non-PPR, I think you look for running backs certainly earlier rather than later. You want to, get one of these, workhorse running backs that are going to get the opportunity to touch the ball as much as possible. So, for example, Derrick Henry is a round 2 pick for me. He's a round 1 pick in non-PPR. Guys like Alvin Kamara in that format, plummet just because they're not going to get as many carries. Same with the great Amir Abdullah. In half PPR, it depends on which players you're comparing them to at what point in the draft. So, for example, Derrick Henry at the back end of round 1 versus Puka Nacua, for example. So that's a tough choice depending on how you think Puka is going to do in terms of scoring touchdowns. I would still lean more toward the pass catchers in that format, just because I still think the half PPR matters a little bit, but it becomes a little bit more tricky. In full PPR, you want running backs that are going to be involved in the passing game if you have the option to draft them. So, again, you may not believe based on Greg Roman's history and Najee Harris being there that Omarion Hampton is going to be a significant factor in the passing game. By comparison, Ken Walker's coming off a very good season catching the ball, and Alvin Kamara's in that same range, and Breece Hall's in that same range. So those 3 running backs are going to do a better job catching the ball. So it's going to, depend on when you start to compare player versus player in each format.
And I would say, just based on a bunch of mock drafts that we've done in the past and having this conversation, I have not noticed a big difference in strategy change from half PPR to full PPR. Maybe certain players, but I don't think if you looked at the way we draft, when I say we, I mean, the 3 of us plus Dave, usually Dan, Jacob Gibbs, they're in our drafts. Thomas is in our drafts, just kind of the CBS FFT family. I think if you looked at ADP, half PPR versus full PPR guys, I kind of feel like it'd be pretty similar. Whereas non-PPR would be dramatically different.
Part of that is because the rankings in the draft room on most sites are going to be the same. For half PPR and full PPR, it's still some version of PPR. I will say in my projections, RB12 and wide receiver 12 are projected for the same number of points. In half PPR, there's a 30-point gap favoring the running backs.
So
But does it change the way you draft, though? Because
I'm much more likely to have a running back in the flex in half PPR.
Oh, okay.
Having just done a half PPR draft with other analysts for the flex leagues, there were 2 managers who took very drastic approaches. One went hero wide receiver and took only 1 wide receiver in the first 5 rounds.
Oof.
One went hero RB, and I don't think took a second running back until maybe round 8.
I could see in a half PPR draft taking 3 running backs in the first 4 picks.
Here's, just since it's relevant, I'll find it for you real quick.
And that's because what Heath said, 3 running backs in the first 4 picks. That's partially because Heath has a big blob of wide receivers that probably he feels the guys he can get in round 6 may not be that different than the ones he gets in round 4.
And the blob gets bigger in half PPR.
Fair.
Because those catches don't matter as much.
So here
Yeah.
are the 2 teams. One was pick. Oh wait, crap, wrong one. Sorry.
This is a half PPR league where you
went to
don't
last
have
year,
to start a tight end, by the way.
Why can't I get there? Sorry.
Wanna come back to it? Podcast awards, folks. This is it.
All right, here we go. So this was the 3rd team. Started with Bijan Robinson, and then it was Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins.
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, a little too soon for me, but whatever. Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Tedero McMillan, Jamison Williams, Ricky Pearsall, Emeka Ibuka. Next running back was not until round 8 with J.K. Dobbins, and then went all running backs with the next 4 picks of J.K. Dobbins, Tajay Spears, Dylan Sampson, and Ray Davis. That was from pick 3. Then at pick 10, we had Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, and then Joe Burrow. So only 1 wide receiver through the first 6 rounds, but 4 running backs in the first 5.
These are double flex leagues, right?
These are double flex leagues. So 2
running backs,
3 receivers, 2 flex spots.
Yeah, right. You can start all the running backs. Yeah, I mean, I prefer the running back. I'm sure we all prefer the running back team.
Yeah. Based on the start, yes.
Yeah. All right.
Again, this is the receiving core for that team. DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Juwan Jennings.
Oh, that's awful. That's horrible.
Right. So again, the start you may prefer. Actually, I think I prefer the receivers, the other team, just because the start, like the running backs are obviously going to be a little bit tough to stomach, but you still have Robinson, and you just have to hit. Like if Tyjae Spears is the best running back in Tennessee, that team's going to be very tough to beat.
Well, yeah, that team does have a lot of if scenarios, though. You could see it going well. So that's one thing that people do sometimes. They just take a lot of chances on a guy like Tyjae Spears, and I forget the other, but anybody like that, Zach Charbonnet, where you might get a 4-week stretch of having an RB1, and it might work out for you. Real quick here, Heath, 2-receiver league versus 3-receiver league. How does things change for you?
In a 2-receiver league, you should draft running backs earlier. In a 3-receiver league, you should draft more wide receivers earlier.
So hero RB, and more likely to do it in a 3-receiver league.
I can do hero in either one. 0 RB more likely to do it in a 3-wide receiver league.
All right, auction advice. Out of a $100 budget, Jamie, how much are you spending on the first-round pick running backs?
You're asking the wrong person.
Heath?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've got between 28 and 31% for Bijan, Achane, Barkley, Genty, Gibbs.
And that makes sense. The reason I said that is because I'm typically not going to do that. I'm going to let somebody else spend their budget on those guys and take more shots on the Tyjae Spears group in salary cap leagues.
Then what are you spending your money on?
Receivers.
Okay. Does age matter anymore? As I said at the beginning of the show, James Conner's 30, Derrick Henry's 31, Aaron Jones is 30, Joe Mixon's 29, Alvin Kamara's 30, Christian McCaffrey's 29. Before last year, 29 and obviously older, not good years for running backs, but last year totally bucked the trend. Heath?
I rank all of those guys lower than I project them. I think it still matters. I'm not going to call Derrick Henry a bust this year, but I've also not been drafting him. And if I was going strictly on projections, I may have a couple times, but Father Time's still undefeated.
If we were not concerned about age, Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara will be top 5 picks.
Well, Kamara still has this horrible offense, though.
And one more Kamara concern, since it's the running back show. Kellen Moore's throwing to running backs in his offense is not, at least not great. It's not bad, but Austin Eckler's had caught a lot of passes with Kellen Moore, went from 6.3 catches per game to 3.6 the year that Moore took over the Chargers.
Really?
Zeke caught 77 passes the year before Kellen Moore took over, never caught more than like 54 with Kellen Moore. Saquon Barkley, I know it had a lot to do with Jalen Hurts, but just had the lowest receptions per game of his career. So maybe it's only one less catch per game for Kamara, but yes, that offense is so terrible. Any ding in his reception volume is a problem.
Yeah, I look forward to talking about that tomorrow because I looked at, have we had standout running backs or any wide receiver or tight end on really bad offenses? And there were enough over the last 5 years to I've been sort of poo-pooing Kamara a lot, but I think I can get on board because he's a round 4 pick. Does anybody take him in round 4? I mean, round 5, I feel like I would take Kamara. Round 4 feels a little early to me. How about you guys?
I've drafted him once. It was in our pick by pick. And so it was at the 4-5 turn. So that's the spot I'm comfortable drafting him at this point. And really only in PPR. Half PPR and non, it's much later than that.
Here's another hot take. I'll take Travion over him now.
Oh, wow. Okay. The younger version, huh? Okay. My favorite sleeper running back is blank. Jamie.
Well, since I have to get a rookie before I leave the draft,
Yes.
I'll say Jaden Blue. Just the reports, I think, for a backfield that has so much ambiguity, there's a potential for him to be the best. And I think with every positive Javonte Williams report that we had at the start of training camp, we're now getting that for Blue. So there's going to be a little market correction, but I move those guys closer together. He's just an easy guy to take in that round 9+ range, if he's still on board.
I'll just stay on that because I think I could make the argument for Javonte Williams as the best sleeper running back. I definitely think he's going to have the first crack at it. Yep. Remember yesterday, Jamie, I was reading some headlines from 2024, some things that I had put in the notes a year ago about training camp risers. I don't know if I read this one, but it was Chris Godwin says he finally feels healthy, 2 years removed from his torn ACL. And that's what I'm hoping for both Javonte Williams and Breece Hall. Talk about him tomorrow. But that some guys, it takes that extra year, because Javonte had a super bad knee injury. It was not just a torn ACL. It was a really serious knee injury. And if he's great in pass protection, right? He's probably going to be the third down back. Jaden Blue was what, sixth round pick, 7th round pick?
Phil Moffitt was 7th round. I think Blue was 5th.
Oh, okay, 5th. All right. Well, that's a little bit better, because 5th round pick in most years I would ignore, but in a running back class this deep, you can't ignore it. But yeah, I think you look at let's just say this: look at the Cowboys' backfield and keep monitoring it, because Rico Dowdle was really good the last half of the year when he finally got the work. If they can get someone in that role, whoever it is, probably going to be pretty good.
I don't think it's a bad idea to take both those guys.
That would meet the quota of rookie running backs.
It's true.
Heath, who's a sleeper for you?
I've got 2 because I'm being stubborn and still using what ADP says. And so Tank Bigsby's up 10 spots, but he's still pick 117. And I think he's going to be the starting running back for Jacksonville. Probably lead him in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. And then if he gets elevated out of that range, which I would take him a couple rounds earlier, Braylon Allen is still like 2 rounds behind him, and probably going to have they're not going to score as many touchdowns as the Lions, so it's not David Montgomery production, but the David Montgomery role.
Well, for giving 2, then I feel left out.
Yeah,
I'm going to give 2. I'm going to give a second one. Go ahead, Jamie.
Oh, Tyjae Spears is like an auto pick for me. I think just we saw it last year when both were healthy. He had some very positive moments. There was the one game where Pollard didn't play, and he had over 20 total touches. I think this offense as a whole is going to be better. And I think Spears has an opportunity to be a potential flex in deeper leagues, but a lottery ticket if something happens to Pollard.
I'm only giving this one because I feel I wasn't planning on giving sleepers, breakouts, and busts, but I feel like everyone's going to be on board with this. If you're going to say Tank Bigsby, I think we got to say J.K. Dobbins. They're going in the same range. Dobbins appears to be the starting running back. In what capacity, I don't know, but the starting running back for the Denver Broncos. I think yesterday I said people think they have the best offensive line in football. I think everyone kind of feels like the Eagles do, but right after that, it's the Broncos. At least
you saying hyperbolic takes yesterday. I don't know.
that one was heat of the moment. The Caleb Williams one, but I'm going to say J.K. Dobbins is a sleeper. He's going after pick 100. Agree?
I'm surprised you said that though, because you sort of painted a negative picture of Dobbins yesterday.
No, he could be a sleeper. It's a great point. He was amazing the first 2 games of the year. After that, he just really wasn't that good. It was weird. Very inefficient, not making big plays. But he's only 26 years old, so I don't know what to make of that. But even if I have those concerns about him, I still think he's a sleeper.
Heath, you would have been proud of me yesterday. I swept, named that player.
Yeah. Love it.
Do you guys agree about that on Dobbins, that he's a sleeper?
Yes, I think the capital right now, again, you get the reports like we're getting that he's running with the ones and, might be better in pass protection and all those things. That's probably going to change where his ADP is. But I also think this is a coach and a system that has proven you can get quality production out of 2 guys. And so it just, and this is, again, drafting early versus drafting late. And we're going back a little bit sooner, but the RJ Harvey value is hopefully going to settle to a spot where it's too fantastic to pass up, and so I think when you start to look at the 3, 4, and 5 rookie running backs of Henderson, Harvey, and Caleb Johnson, and obviously they're very different type of players. Henderson right now is going to probably move past those guys if he's not already because of what's happened the last few days. I think we're going to see Harvey fall because of reports like this, and Caleb Johnson's kind of just going to be sort of settling as the third option of those 3 guys. But one more training camp highlight of Caleb Johnson running through what would be 7 tackles for a touchdown and saying, wow, look at the burst is going to, change some of those things. So take it for what it's worth. I would take Henderson first, but I think Harvey could end up being the best of maybe the non-Genty guys if something happens to Dobbins. So those 4 or 5 games that Dobbins typically misses, RJ Harvey might be an absolute superstar.
All right, my favorite breakout running back is blank, Heath.
Well, they're all running rookies. So all my favorite breakouts are rookies. And I'll say TreVeyon Henderson. And this is some confirmation bias because he's my second favorite running back coming into the NFL. And you can't watch Patriots reports without seeing them glow about how much different his burst is than anyone else on the team. Ramondre Stevenson's already fumbled once in training camp. And that's the two things that keep veterans that we don't like ahead of rookies that we love are pass protection and ball security.
Mm-hmm.
And Trevion Henderson enters the NFL better than Ramondre at both. He will break out in year one.
Love this. I love it. You're firing me up to pick Trevion Henderson. I've been nervous. I'm nervous about the split, but yeah, you make such good points. Jamie, your favorite?
You have buyer's remorse from taking Harvey over Henderson in your rookie draft?
I didn't do that. Did I? There's no way.
I thought you took Harvey over Henderson in the Big Burger League.
Oh, please tell me I didn't do that.
I'm going to look at the draft results right now.
It was defensible, I suppose, before the Dobbins signing, but I loved Trevion Henderson.
No, he took Cam Ward at pick 3. I took Trevion at pick 5. He took Harvey at pick 7.
Yeah. I have probably the biggest buyer's remorse in that draft.
Okay. All right, who's your favorite breakout, Jamie?
I can't believe Heath let me have this. I'm going to take DeAndre Swift. This is going to be the best year of his career.
Okay. All right.
I believe it.
DeAndre Swift has been top 24 per game every year. Let's see, the highest. He did finish his RB10 in full PPR in 2021. RB20 that year per game. This is per game in non-PPR. So that was a year where he had 62 catches in 13 games. So what do you think? Do you think he's got top 15 potential?
Absolutely. I mean, again, when you start to look at some of the situations, forget about who he is. Forget about his resume, anything. If you just look at situation, right? You have Ben Johnson coming in. You have an upgraded offensive line. You have a guy that's dealing with a player in the second spot who's had a hard time staying healthy and who struggled in Roshan Johnson, and a 7th-round rookie as the top competition right now. Now, I would not rule out if somebody gets cut that they add somebody else at some point. So from like a Devin Singletary, Antonio Gibson type, which I don't think is a huge threat to DeAndre Swift, but just something to keep in mind. Like one of those guys that's, right now 2nd or 3rd on their depth chart, but clearly going to get pushed aside for either new players or younger players, whatever the case may be. I just think Swift is in such a good spot that he's going to catch a lot of passes. He's going to, hopefully score enough touchdowns to be relevant and be just in a spot where, first off, his draft capital is great at this point still. I hope it doesn't get out of control. But it's just an easy spot to sort of draft him. And so, yes, the touchdown potential is the scariest thing, but I think he's going to be top 5 in receptions at the position.
Wow. I disagree super duper strongly about
in receptions.
That. Yeah. At the position, DeAndre Swift, top 5. I mean, you're just basing that on Jahmyr Gibbs?
I'm basing it on how this offense is shaping up right now. Get the ball out of his hands quick. I mean, what does that sound like to you?
They definitely want to do that. If they want 70% completion rate, they definitely want to do that. Gibbs hasn't really been that high of a catch guy, though, believe it or not.
Gibbs, but Swift was. He had 70 targets in 14 games with Ben Johnson and 78 the year before in 13 games.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, look, I can't sit here and buy into Colston Loveland and Luther Burden's having a good camp and Romo Dunze breakout and DJ Moore. They're going to manufacture touches for him. And now DeAndre Swift's going to be top 5 at the position and catches too. I don't know.
Nobody's selling all of those things. You have to decide which of those things.
Okay, but we just talked about RJ Harvey and Trevion Henderson. Do we think Swift's going to have more catches than those guys?
I think he's going to score more fantasy points.
We think he's going to have more catches, though.
Do I think he's going to have more catches than Henderson and Harvey?
Yeah.
I think more than Harvey. Henderson, look, I'm obviously making a bold prediction here, but he won't have more than Achane. He won't have more than Kamara. He won't have more than, I think, Gibbs. Who?
Bijan.
That I could see being close. I don't think Bijan's much more than a 50 catch guy.
Really? Didn't he crush that last year? Am I crazy?
I've got him at 54 this year.
I should know that. He had 60 last year. All right, whatever.
It would shock you if Swift is in the 60 range?
Surprise me. Wouldn't shock me. That's okay. You know what? He can be a breakout even if he's not top 5 in catches.
All right, so we'll make a bet. Harvey receptions versus Swift receptions.
Yeah, I'll take Harvey.
Okay.
I like that bet. That's a fun one. That'll be a good one.
What's the loser have to do?
Shave your eyebrows.
Oh man, the loser has to shave my eyebrows. All right, so we got Trevion Henderson for Heath. We got DeAndre Swift for Jamie. I'm just gonna say Chase Brown. I don't see how this guy fails unless he gets hurt. I think this competition in the backfield sucks. Their offensive coordinators talking about he's going to be a household name. Chase Brown, he was top 5 running back after Zach Moss got hurt last year. I am worried about him holding up. I am. I don't know what kind of workload he can sustain. He's not the biggest, not the smallest, but he's not the biggest, but he could be on the highest scoring offense in football. Anybody want to push back on that, or can we move on?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Chase Brown. I don't see I don't see how he fails unless he gets hurt.
So you have Joe Burrow as a sleeper.
Stop.
You said it.
He's not an official sleeper.
You said those words.
I just think he's going a little too late in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues.
Chase Brown had 1,350 yards, 54 catches, and 11 touchdowns last year. What does he have to do to be a breakout? Like, he can be a great pick without being a breakout, but are we going 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns?
We're not going down the road of what's a breakout versus not a breakout. But, the Bucky Irving, Chase Brown portions of seasons where they were awesome and saying that's going to be a full season worth of production. Like, you can make the case that that's a breakout, right? Because if they do that over 17 games or 15 plus games, like, that's easy top 3 potential player.
Yeah.
Same with Bucky Irving, right?
That's 2,000 total yards and 81 catches and 12 touchdowns, which I'll take the under on everything but the touchdowns, but I think he could be a top 5 running back in full PPR. So I don't have that's how I would say it, but he's going in the 3rd round. I love that. All right. Blank will be a bust. By the way, my sleeper is Isaiah Pacheco. My other sleeper is Isaiah Pacheco. We didn't get to talk about him. All right. 6th, typical 6th round sleeper. Blank will be a bust. Jamie.
You've heard me say it a billion times at this point. Saquon Barkley. I just so nervous about the metrics of what he is dealing with, historical metrics of what he's dealing with, of 400 plus total touches, 400 carries when you factor in the playoffs, and the history of 2,000-yard rushers. Again, I hope it's not injury related, but he's just not somebody that I'm drafting in the first half of round 1. I just can't do it.
And you'll take Saquon Barkley when?
The back half of round 1, starting at like 8th overall.
Okay.
I mean, again, it's a little bit of a coward bust to say it this way, but I think I just did an analyst draft. He went 2nd overall. It's not going to change. I think no matter what anybody that's, I don't want to say anti-Barkley, but nervous about Barkley tells you, people are still going to draft him in the first 5 picks. I get it.
And I a lot of times get painted as the guy who's okay with Saquon, and that's because I'm higher on him than Dave and Jamie, but I've got him 5th, and he never, ever seems to be there at 5th either. I haven't drafted him once. So I agree. I'm not taking him where everybody else is taking him, but just not quite as
Heath, you know who your breakout really is, by the way? It's Achane.
Okay. I mean, it's hard to say that when a guy's had 2 seasons already where he statted over 20 points a game.
Yeah. Okay.
And Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, they're all the same. They had great stretches of the season where you can't expect better than those stretches,
right?
Unless you're saying they're going to do it the entire year.
Yeah. I don't think Chase Brown's going to be RB3 per game for the entire year, which is what he was in full PPR, because I don't think he'll catch as many passes, but I get what you're saying. Heath, who's a bust for you?
James Cook, and he was a bust for me before he decided to hold in and stand on business. The touchdown regression that's coming is terrifying. And early reports when he was practicing, there was talk about how he wants to show more 3-down skill set, and there was no sign in Bill's camp that that's what they were planning on doing. It was still a heavy rotation of running backs. He's awesome. I love James Cook as a player, but the Bills do not want to use him the way he needs to be used to make up for the touchdown regression that's coming. I won't take him till round 4.
And what's going to be interesting, Heath, is if he continues his hold in, you might end up with a lot of James Cook when he starts falling around 4.
Well, I would guess if the hold in continues to mid-August, then I'm probably going to be lowering him to round 5.
Could be. All right. So sleepers were Jaden Blue and Tajay Spears for Jamie, Tank Bigsby and Braylon Allen for Heath. Breakouts were Travion Henderson for Heath, DeAndre Swift for Jamie. We also everybody loves Devon Achane this year. We have him much higher than ADP, which is weird because he's 12th in ADP. But we have everyone, Dave, Jamie, and Heath have him as a top 5 pick. That's Devon Achane. And the bust, Saquon Barkley for Jamie, who's got him about 8th. Not that we think Saquon stinks, but shouldn't be the second pick. And James Cook for Heath. All right, listen, Draftathon, we are over $125,000. We're going to set a record this year, it seems. But if you go to the website, tinyurl.com/2025FFT, scroll down a little bit and click on auction houses. Okay, click on view auction house. And that's where you're going to see all the things that we have available for you to purchase. That would be spots in the FFT Dynasty League, spots in the Podcast League. No bids yet on a private call with Adam Azer, but there are bids on the Jamie and Heath ones. That's pretty messed up. And there's plenty more there. Plenty more. An appearance on the show is one of the things. So go to tinyurl.com/2025FFT, click on View Auction House, and you'll see all the great things that you can bid on, and it all goes to St. Jude. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Preview part 2 tomorrow. We'll go through ADP. We'll go through all the players. Yeah.
Just to wrap up your fantasy takes so far for the preseason. Caleb Williams, best arm in the NFL. Well, that's not a fantasy take, but your NFL takes. Caleb Williams, best arm in the NFL.
Yeah.
Correct? Am I saying
well,
correct?
I said it. I would love to take it back, but I did. He has an amazing arm, though. I'll stand by that.
The best part about that was, so this was on Sports Network yesterday, right? When you said it?
Of course, yes. I had to say
you said it.
TV.
You said it. Thomas immediately texted us. And what was it? It was LOL, the Caleb Williams take.
Is that what he said? I think he said that might have been the worst take.
I did add it to the thread. Also,
you came back from commercial and you were like, I may have misspoken.
Caleb takes probably the worst all time on the pod. That's what Thomas said. I said it like going into break. I wanted to drop something hot, and I went too hot. There.
Joe Burrow is a sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I said that.
And Chase Brown is a breakout.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But calling Pacheco a sleeper might be,
No, Joe Burrow sleeper is your worst sleeper call.
My definition is people are sleeping on them. Go ahead, Heath.
No, I think that's, you can define it however you want, Adam. Words don't mean anything at all. I just wanted to say that in 12 minutes, you guys should just stay right here. FFT Dynasty's coming with updating how the rookies have moved in training camp.
Perfect. I think sure there will be some Travion Henderson talk on that one.
Yes.
All right. For Jamie and Heath and Thomas, I'm Adam.
Tonight.
What's that? Oh yeah. Live stream tonight at 7 p.m. We'll see you there. We're doing a live mock draft. YouTube.com/fantasyfootball today. 7 p.m. Eastern right there. Okay. Now I'm signing off. Bye, everyone.